The babysitter's final text message solved the murder. 9:17 p.m. Her final text read only 5 words: "He's inside the house now." Her parents returned home to silence, and something far worse. But what happened next shocked everyone. Emma Clark, 17, straight-A student. Loved poetry, babysat on weekends. The Clark home sat on the quiet edge of Oak Ridge, Oregon. The kind of place where people don't lock doors. Until that night. She was watching 3-year-old Lily for the Thompsons just 2 houses down from her own. The parents left at 7:30. At 10:15 their world shattered. We post daily, subscribe so you never miss a case. Emma Clark was the kind of girl everyone trusted. 17 years old, responsible to a fault, and adored by the neighborhood kids. Her Instagram was full of sunlit selfies, coffee cups, and books, mostly thrillers. She had this quiet energy, like she always noticed things others missed. Babysitting wasn't just a gig for Emma. She genuinely loved it, especially watching little Lily Thompson. The toddler was bubbly, full of personality, and always reached for Emma instead of her own toys. That Tuesday night was supposed to be just like the dozens before. Easy. Uneventful. The Thompsons had a date night planned. Nothing fancy, just dinner, maybe a late showing at the theater in town. They left at 7:30 p.m. sharp. Emma waved them off from the porch, then turned and locked the door behind her, habit, not fear. Inside, she and Lily built a pillow fort in the living room. They watched the same cartoon on loop. At 8:15 Lily's eyes drooped. Emma carried her to the crib upstairs, turned on the baby monitor, and texted the parents, "All good here. She's out like a light." Downstairs, Emma curled up on the couch, hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands. The autumn wind tapped against the windows. A movie played, half-watched. She texted her boyfriend, Jake, "Netflix and no chill." They exchanged memes for a bit. Normal stuff. Comfortable. Then came the first flicker. At 9:03 p.m. Emma texted again, "Dogs barking like crazy at the back door. Weird." Jake replied with a laughing emoji. "Maybe a raccoon." Emma didn't respond right away. In fact, she stopped typing mid-sentence. 10 minutes passed. At 9:13 she sent another message, "Okay, porch light just turned off. By itself." Jake, still half-joking, replied, "Spooky season." But something about the timing felt off. Emma stood up, walked to the front window. Moved the curtain with just 2 fingers. That's when she saw him. A man. Standing perfectly still at the end of the driveway. Not walking. Not moving. Just watching. She stepped back, heart pounding. Took a shaky breath. Looked again. Gone. She paced for a bit. Picked up her phone. No new messages. Called Jake. He didn't pick up. Then she heard it. The unmistakable sound of a floorboard creaking upstairs. She froze. The monitor showed Lily sleeping. Nothing unusual. But something didn't feel right. The air had shifted. It was like the house was holding its breath. Emma started to text again. Fingers fumbling. She never finished that message. At 9:17 p.m. she sent her final text. "He's inside the house now." Then, silence. No more messages. No missed calls. Nothing. Jake stared at his phone, confused. Then worried. He texted again. Called twice. Still nothing. Across town, the Thompsons were laughing over dessert. Unaware. Just 2 streets away from the moment everything unraveled. Back inside that house, the TV kept playing. A cartoon voice chirped something cheerful, a brutal contrast to the creeping dread settling between the walls. Outside, the neighborhood was still. No one saw a thing. Emma had vanished. And everything after that would haunt Oak Ridge forever. At 10:15 p.m., the Thompsons pulled into their driveway, headlights sweeping across the front of the house. Everything looked normal until they noticed the front door. It was open. Just barely. Not wide enough to seem forced. Just enough to feel wrong. Mrs. Thompson hesitated. Mr. Thompson called out, "Emma?" No answer. They stepped inside together. The living room light was on. The TV still playing that same looping cartoon. A cup of cocoa sat untouched on the coffee table. Emma's backpack was against the arm of the couch. Her phone screen cracked, lay face down on the kitchen tile, as if it had been dropped mid-step. But there was no Emma. Mrs. Thompson ran upstairs, heart in her throat. Lily was still asleep. Peaceful. Unbothered. Tucked in under her pink blanket. Downstairs, the silence was too loud. Mr. Thompson walked the perimeter of the house. That's when he saw it, the sliding glass door to the backyard unlocked. Just beyond it, footprints in the dew-covered grass. One set, barefoot, moving away from the house. He called 911. Within minutes, the police arrived. Flashlights danced through the yard, past the fence into the trees. It was a quiet neighborhood, no motion, no witnesses. Just the sound of distant sirens approaching. Investigators followed the trail. It curved around the back of the property, into the wooded area that bordered the subdivision. The grass was bent like someone had run through it. Then a smear of something darker. Blood. Tiny almost missed, but it was there. About 30 feet into the woods they found a shoe. Converse. Size 7. Then a charm bracelet. One Mrs. Thompson instantly recognized it had the tiny silver violin Emma always wore. The search intensified. Dogs were brought in. A helicopter circled overhead, casting harsh white light onto the tree canopy. And then at 3:42 a.m., a deputy found her. Emma Clark. Positioned carefully. Not dropped. Not buried. Placed. She was lying on her back, arms at her sides. Her expression wasn't contorted, it was calm, as if she were sleeping. But her neck, broken. Her other shoe was nearby. Her shirt was torn, but there were no signs of sexual assault. Her phone had never left the house. What struck investigators most wasn't just her body. It was her hand. It had been turned slightly, pointing back toward the house, like a final clue. By sunrise, crime scene tape lined the yard. The neighborhood buzzed with quiet panic. Parents pulled kids from school. Reporters swarmed the street. No one could understand how something like this could happen here in Oak Ridge, in a house full of light and lullabies. The medical examiner's report confirmed the worst. Emma had been attacked around 9:20 p.m., just minutes after her final text message. Strangled. Then her neck broken. There were signs of a brief struggle. Defensive wounds. Scratches on her knuckles. Dirt under her nails. But whoever did this moved fast, quiet, calculated. There were no fingerprints. No weapon. Nothing left behind, except footprints. Back at the house, the babysitter's notes were still on the fridge. Dinner schedule. Emergency numbers. A sticky note that read, "Don't forget the bedtime story." The baby monitor continued to blink silently. Emma had protected Lily. Whatever she heard, whatever she saw, she faced it alone. And somehow she managed to warn someone. That final text was the first clue. Inside the station, detectives reviewed her phone. One last text. 5 words. Sent at 9:17 p.m. "He's inside the house now." She saw him. She knew. And even as the nightmare unfolded, she tried to leave a trail. A voice silenced but not ignored. Emma Clark was gone. But her message had just begun to speak. By 9 a.m. the next morning, Emma Clark's name was all over the local news. But behind the scenes, investigators were already building timelines, mapping movements, and narrowing down suspects. The first theory was the obvious one: someone random. A drifter, a break-in gone wrong. But nothing in the house was stolen. There were no signs of forced entry. And Emma's watch and bracelet still on her wrist. So the focus shifted to people she knew. First, Jake. Emma's boyfriend had been texting her all night. But could that have been a cover? They brought him in for questioning. He was nervous, shaking. Said he tried calling Emma after she stopped replying. Showed them the call log. 11 missed calls. All unanswered. His alibi? A late dinner with friends at a 24-hour diner across town. They checked the security footage. There he was laughing, eating fries, phone in hand. Jake was cleared. Next, the neighbors. Officers canvassed every house within a 4-block radius. Most people had been asleep or inside by the time the attack happened. Except one man. Owen Bryce. 35. Married. 2 young kids. Lived next door to the Thompsons. Emma had babysat for his family once, maybe twice. Nothing recent. He told police he hadn't seen anything. Said he was in his garage most of the evening, working on a project. Alone. No one to confirm. His demeanor was strange. Calm. Too calm. One of the officers noted he didn't ask how Emma had died, just said, "That's terrible," and moved on. They didn't have enough to press further. Not yet. Then came the phone. Though the screen was cracked, forensic techs pulled data from Emma's iCloud backup. Text, photos, notes, and one audio file. Not a voice memo. Not a recording she meant to make. Just background noise from a voice message she'd started and never sent. At 9:16 p.m., the audio was faint, mostly static, but a voice emerged. Mel. And unmistakable. "Emma, it's me. Don't scream." Investigators played it over and over. Voice analysts compared it with neighbors, school staff, even family friends. And the match? Owen Bryce. He was brought in again. This time he was quiet, sweating. He asked for a lawyer. but the dam had already broken. When they searched his garage, they found muddy boots size 10, matching the footprints from the crime scene. In the trunk of his sedan, a crumpled babysitting flyer with Emma's name on it, dated months back, circled in red pen. There was more. On his home computer, buried in a folder labeled Work Docs, they found dozens of screenshots of Emma's social media accounts. Pictures, captions, comments. Obsession. They pieced it together. Owen had grown fixated on Emma after those babysitting nights. She was kind to his kids, polite, friendly. But to Owen it meant something more. When she stopped accepting his jobs, he took it personally. He watched her from his window, then from his car, then from inside the house. Police believe he slipped into the Thompsons' basement hours before the family left, waiting for Emma to be alone. When she spotted him, she tried to escape, but he was already in control. The final twist came during the interview. Owen cracked. Said he just wanted to talk. That she overreacted. Said she tripped. But the bruises told another story. She didn't fall. She fought. And in the end, she lost. But she didn't go quietly. Her voice hidden in static. Her hand pointing to the house. Her text sent seconds before death. Emma Clark solved her own murder. Piece by piece the truth emerged. But the darkness was far from over. The trial began 6 months later. The courtroom was packed. Press, neighbors, parents clutching tissues. Everyone wanted to see the man who'd shattered the illusion of safety in Oak Ridge. Owen Bryce sat still in his seat, eyes vacant. No emotion. No apology. Just a faint tap of his foot, like he was keeping time to something only he could hear. Prosecutors laid out the timeline with precision. They showed the jury Emma's final text, played the audio clip, described the placement of her body, the direction her hand pointed. But the detail that landed hardest? The baby monitor. In the background of the recording, Lily's soft breathing could be heard. Emma had never left the child's side until she had no choice. The defense tried to argue that Owen was mentally unstable, that he didn't intend to hurt her, that Emma's death was a tragic accident. But the evidence spoke louder. His internet history included searches like, "How long before someone finds a body in the woods?" and "Can deleted texts be recovered?" The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty. First-degree murder. Unlawful entry. Stalking with intent to harm. Life in prison without parole. Emma's parents didn't cry when the verdict was read. They sat, hands clasped, staring straight ahead. Later, her mother told reporters, it wasn't justice, but it was something. In the months that followed, something shifted in Oak Ridge. Parents got security cameras. Babysitting jobs were suddenly harder to fill. Kids stayed indoors more. The illusion of safety shattered. But out of the grief, something else grew. Emma's story reached beyond the town. Podcasts covered it. National news picked it up. The text, "He's inside the house now," became a symbol of awareness, of instinct, of warning signs too often ignored. The Clarks started a foundation in Emma's name. Emma's Watch, they called it. It provides free safety kits to teenage babysitters, panic buttons, emergency training, situational awareness workshops. And then came the scholarship. Each year, a student pursuing forensic psychology receives it. The first recipient? A classmate of Emma's. One who had never spoken to her in life, but who said, "She made me want to understand the kind of mind that did this." Even in death, Emma created ripples. But there was still one unanswered question: how had Owen gotten in? No sign of forced entry. The Thompsons swore they'd locked all doors. Weeks later, a maintenance worker found a broken vent behind the basement, large enough to crawl through, covered by a bush, hidden until it wasn't. That meant he'd planned this, waited, watched, and when the house was dark, he emerged. Emma likely saw him coming up the stairs. That's when she grabbed her phone, sent the text, fought back. That's when he snapped her neck, fast, silent, and carried her into the woods like she was weightless. That's what stayed with people. The detail that haunted most? She never screamed. No neighbors heard anything. Just silence. Except for that one text. Except for that one clue. Her last words solved the case. Her instinct saved a child. Her silence became a roar. Owen Bryce is now in a maximum security prison, locked away. But the shadows he brought with him? They never really left. Some nights, people say they still hear a knock at the back door. A floorboard creak upstairs. A cold gust through the hallway. The truth is, monsters don't always hide under beds. Sometimes, they live next door. Owen Bryce wasn't a stranger. He wasn't the masked figure from a horror movie. He was a father, a neighbor, The man who mowed his lawn every Sunday and waved at passing cars. That's what made him terrifying. Psychologists called his behavior a textbook example of covert obsessive fixation, a pattern where the subject forms a parasocial bond without the other person's consent or awareness. In Owen's mind, Emma wasn't just a babysitter. She was his person. Someone who understood him. Someone who made him feel seen. The truth? She was polite, respectful, professional. That was it. But for Owen, those traits became fuel for delusion. Experts also cited eroticized control disorder, a rare psychological condition where the need for domination replaces sexual impulse. It's not about desire. It's about power. Emma saying no wasn't rejection. It was betrayal. And once that line was crossed, the fantasy collapsed and was replaced by rage. Investigators later uncovered journals on Owen's computer. Private. Hidden. Dozens of entries obsessing over Emma's kindness, her scent, the sound of her laugh. The entries shifted over time from admiration to bitterness. Then, finally, to threats. One entry read, "If she won't come back willingly, she'll come back still." It was signed with her initials. Owen's profile matched traits commonly seen in organized offenders: meticulous planning, control of the crime scene, post-crime manipulation. He left no fingerprints. Chose his time precisely. Knew when the family would be gone. He even turned off the porch light, one of the few things Emma noticed in time. But the most chilling detail? He didn't panic. He stayed calm. Neighbors said he walked his dog the next morning like nothing had happened. This duality, the mask of normalcy hiding predatory intent, is what criminal profilers call social camouflage. It's why monsters like Owen rarely raise alarms, until it's too late. Emma Clark never screamed. She didn't have time to run. But in her final seconds, she left behind something no one could ignore: a message. A direction. A voice, even in silence. That's what stayed with us. Not just the tragedy, but the bravery. A 17-year-old girl fought back with what little she had: her instincts, her courage, and 5 final words that solved her own murder. Her death broke a family, a town, a sense of safety. But her story? It continues to echo. Because Emma made sure the world would know who did it. And now, so do you. Don't forget to subscribe. We post new cases daily.